Jack lived for the thrill of a good scare. The way people's eyes widened, their breath hitched, their screams echoing in the night. It was music to his ears. His wife, Lisa, however, wasn't a fan. She pleaded with him to stop, her voice laced with worry. "It's not funny, Jack," she'd say, her brow creased with concern. But Jack just couldn't resist the urge to prank. The more outrageous, the better. Halloween was Jack's personal playground, a time when fear was expected, embraced even. Every year he'd outdo himself, his pranks becoming more elaborate, more terrifying. This year, he promised Lisa, would be different. He'd keep it light, he said, a promise he had no intention of keeping. One cool October evening, as Jack rummaged through the neighborhood trash, his eyes fell upon a discarded mannequin. It was a boy, about the size of his own son, 10-year-old David. A wicked grin spread across Jack's face. He had found his masterpiece. The mannequin was eerily lifelike. Its plastic skin, cold and smooth, glinted under the dim streetlight. It was missing an arm, and its face was scratched and scuffed, giving it a haunting, disfigured appearance. Perfect. Jack heaved the mannequin into his truck, an idea forming in his mind, an idea so twisted, so chilling, it made even him shiver with anticipation. This wasn't just about a quick scare. This was about creating a scene of pure terror, a tableau of horror that would be etched into the minds of everyone who witnessed it. He imagined their faces, pale and contorted in fear, and a dark chuckle rumbled deep within his chest. He drove home, his mind racing with possibilities. He pictured the mannequin posed in David's room, a silent, menacing figure lurking in the shadows. He could almost hear David's terrified screams, and the thought sent a jolt of excitement through him. That night, while Lisa and David slept, Jack toiled away in the garage. He worked under the harsh glare of a bare bulb, the mannequin propped up before him like a macabre apprentice. He found a tattered black robe in the attic, the fabric worn thin with age. He draped it over the mannequin's plastic shoulders, letting it pool on the floor around its feet. He then retrieved an old, chipped Halloween mask from his collection. It depicted a grotesque, grinning skull, its empty sockets seeming to stare back at him with malevolent intent. Carefully, he secured the mask over the mannequin's face, the skull's chilling grin a mirror of his own. He wanted to create a scene of pure terror, a tableau of horror. He found the perfect prop in his toolbox, a large, rusty hunting knife, its blade dulled with time but still menacing in its own right. He carefully positioned the knife in the mannequin's remaining hand, its plastic fingers curled around the hilt. Under the cover of darkness, Jack carried the horrifying figure to David's room. The house was silent, except for the soft creaks of an old house settling. He carefully placed the mannequin at the foot of David's bed, its blank eyes staring into nothingness. The skull mask seemed to leer at him in the darkness, and for a moment, even Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew Lisa would be furious if she found out, but that was part of the thrill, wasn't it? Pushing the boundaries, testing the limits. Besides, it was just a harmless prank. It wasn't like the mannequin was real. He shut David's door quietly and went to bed. As he lay in the darkness, listening to Lisa's steady breathing beside him, he couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. The image of the skull mask grinning wickedly in the shadows of his son's room replayed over and over in his mind. The next morning, Jack woke with a start. The sun was already up, casting long shadows across the bedroom floor. He could smell coffee brewing downstairs. Lisa was already awake. A wave of guilt washed over him as he remembered the mannequin. He had to get to David's room before Lisa did. He threw on his robe and hurried down the hallway, his heart pounding in his chest. He reached for the doorknob, his hand trembling slightly. He took a deep breath and threw open the door, expecting to see David cowering in fear, his face pale as a sheet. But the room was empty. The bed was made, the curtains were drawn, and there was no sign of David. The mannequin was gone too. Jack's brow furrowed in confusion. Where had they gone? He hadn't heard them leave. He found Lisa in the kitchen, flipping pancakes at the stove. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she said, her back to him. "David's already eaten and gone out to play." Relief washed over Jack. So the mannequin hadn't scared David after all. He had probably slept through the whole thing. Did he say anything about the, Jack stammered, struggling to find the right words. About the decoration in his room. Lisa turned around, a spatula in her hand. Decoration? She asked, her brow furrowed in confusion. What decoration? Jack laughed nervously. Oh, just a little Halloween prank, he said, trying to sound casual. I must have forgotten to tell you about it. Lisa put down the spatula and turned to face him, her expression hardening. Jack, she said, her voice low and dangerous. What did you do? He waved his hand dismissively. It was nothing, really, he said, trying to downplay his prank. Just a silly joke. You know how much I love Halloween. But Lisa wasn't buying it. She could sense he was hiding something, and her worry quickly turned to anger. This isn't funny, Jack, she said, her voice shaking. This has gone too far. Where's David? She pushed past him and headed for the stairs. David! She called out, her voice echoing through the house. David, where are you? Jack followed her, a knot of unease forming in his stomach. He had never seen Lisa this angry before. He's probably just outside playing, he said, trying to reassure her, but even to his own ears his words sounded hollow. They searched the house from top to bottom, but there was no sign of David. Lisa's calls became more frantic, more desperate, but only silence met her ears. Just as they were about to call the police, a blood-curdling scream ripped through the house. It came from the attic. Jack and Lisa exchanged a horrified look and raced towards the sound. The attic door was slightly ajar, and a cold draft seeped out, carrying with it the stench of something old and rotten. Jack pushed the door open, his blood turning to ice at what he saw. David lay sprawled on the dusty floor, his eyes wide with terror, his body still, and standing over him, the rusty hunting knife clutched in its hand, was the mannequin. The skull mask seemed to stare down at its victim with a cruel satisfaction. Lisa screamed and rushed to David's side, but it was too late. He was gone. Jack stood frozen in the doorway, his blood running cold. This wasn't a prank. This was real. He had never intended for anyone to get hurt, let alone his own son. The weight of what he had done crashed down on him, crushing him under its immensity. He had let his love of a good scare go too far, and now his son was dead. He looked at the mannequin, its blank eyes seeming to mock him, and a primal fear, unlike anything he had ever felt before, gripped his heart. The police arrived quickly, sirens wailing in the distance, but even their presence did little to pierce the heavy silence that had descended upon the house. As they led Jack away, his wrists bound in cold, unforgiving steel, he could only stare at the mannequin, its lifeless eyes seeming to follow his every move. The investigation revealed no fingerprints on the knife, no signs of forced entry, no logical explanation for what had happened. The mannequin, that silent, grinning witness, offered no answers. It remained in police custody, a chilling reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded in the attic of a seemingly ordinary house on an ordinary street. Some whispered that the mannequin was cursed, possessed by a malevolent spirit that thirsted for vengeance. Others claimed it was a simple case of a prank gone horribly wrong, a tragic accident fueled by one man's twisted sense of humor. But whatever the truth, one thing remained certain. The laughter had died in the house on the hill, replaced by a silence so profound, so heavy, it threatened to swallow everything in its path. And somewhere, in the shadows of that silence, the mannequin stood watch, its hollow eyes forever fixed on a past it could not change, a future it could not escape.